will run your ass into the ground.
You doing, Kanan?
Oh.
But I can tell it ain't good.
Turn around. Here's my back.
You brought all this into his life.
The feds, they got eyes on you, they got eyes on Kanan.
Now, one word that I would describe going into episode 4 with, based on the trailer, exclusive images, and where we are in the storyline, is danger. Danger lurks around the corner for every single one of these characters in some shape or form. For Raquel, she's got Fed sniffing around her and she still has to watch her back, even though she has nothing to hide. In the week, I ran through the angle of law enforcement and how they seem to be playing an increased role. So even if she's saying she's out the game with the latest purchase, she's still going to be hot on the Fed's radar. The same goes for characters like Marvin and Kanan, who finds himself in danger. Kanan will get picked up by the metal detectors, most likely a gun that they find in his bag, and we're going to speculate a few ways of how a gun could have found its way of being in Kanan's possession. Now, he may need Lou or Howard to do him a favor, who are also fighting issues of their own. Meanwhile, with Unique and Ronnie, shit is about to get serious when Ronnie approaches and puts hands on Dean, and we all know that situation isn't going to end well. So danger is the word going into episode 4. But as usual, we're going to be running through a quick preview of what we can expect based on some exclusive images for Raising Kanan Season 3, Episode 4. Now, the title for Episode 4 is in sheep's clothing, and the synopsis reads: New business ventures take shape for the Thomas family, but the outlook is bleaker for the Mathis brothers as Ronnie's patience runs out. Meanwhile, Rock makes a risky move for Kanan's obedience. Now, let's start with the relationship between Kanan and Rock. We all know it's not in a great place at this moment in time, and I don't think it ever will be no matter what risky move Rock makes. So we've got Rock approaching Kanan at school, which also matches up from a scene that we've seen in a different teaser. Now, even though the relationship isn't exactly in the best of places, Rock will still try, but I expect this to go the way it did in episode 2. Kanan wants to be treated with respect and honesty, and until Rock actually shows she's changed rather than just saying she's out the game, I really don't see their relationship being any different. Now, here's where it starts to get a little interesting, because the synopsis teases that Rock will make a risky move for Kanan's obedience, and so I think we can tie this in with Kanan being stopped and searched by security at his school, as well as Rock giving money to Famous. Kanan will be stopped and searched, and I think we can all assume Kanan has a gun in his bag, but he's not stupid enough to carry a piece around, especially because he knows he has to go through metal detectors before he gets to school. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Kanan has a gun either at this moment in time. He borrowed Palomar's in Season 2, but I don't believe he or Famous have one at their crib. So with that being said, could this be Rock's risky move? Is this why she's giving money to Famous again? Because she's asking him to put a gun in Kanan's bag. Now let's not forget, this is Rock we're talking about. We know what lengths she's gone to try and keep Kanan from the truth, as well as trying to bring him back home. So whatever her risky move is, nothing should surprise us. She's a mother who really is willing to do anything to get her way. Now, on a side note, you can tell this time around Famous does not want to take that money. He took it in episode 1, but you can tell by his face in this scene, I don't think he wants to take it, but we all know Rock won't give him a choice. So a little side plot I do think we need to bear in mind is the direction they take Famous and Kanan's relationship. Prior to Season 3, Antonio Ortiz and Makai Curtis did tease that the brotherhood that we've seen in the early seasons may start to turn into more of a business relationship, so that's just something to keep an eye on. Now, this is probably the aftermath of Kanan having the handcuffs slapped on his wrist at school. We're going to see Rock being called in and what looks like a meeting between Rock, Kanan, and the principal, which I can only assume will end with Kanan being suspended. We've also got him back home at Rock's place, and they have teased in previous teasers and trailers that he would end up back at Rock's. But the problem that Kanan will find is, not only is he not getting on with his moms, it probably means he isn't there to oversee the day-to-day running of his new operation. We've seen both Kanan and Famous both working together in terms of taking pages, the locations of the drop-offs, and answering phone calls, and they've literally just started to get paid. But I highly doubt that Kanan can do that from Rock's house, and he does look pretty annoyed. Now on Paul, I feel like he will be a problem sooner rather than later, and when that happens, Kanan will either have to take him out or move him out of the way, especially as his business starts to grow. I mean, we've seen it with countless of times in Power, where characters trying to go over the distro to make a deal with the Connect directly, so the same also goes for Simrad. I wouldn't be surprised if Kanan moves both Paul and Simrad out the way to further his organization, because he is very ambitious. Now, sticking with the Thomas family, we've also got Marvin and Lou at the bar where Lou stupidly got himself arrested, which made him miss Duke's audition. So first things first, I think both of these brothers have a lot to get off their chest, and Lou definitely owes Marvin, but more so Duke, yet another apology. Now after that, who knows where they take his character arc? We know that he's on this downward spiral where the roles have reversed with him and Marvin, But will this bar be enough for him to turn things around? I'm hoping he does. But if I were to be brutally honest, I think we all know how the story will end. We learned a bit more of the backstory in episode 3 with how E-Train gave up on life. So I wouldn't be surprised if the same happens with Lou if he fucks up again. But let's see what they do, because if we've learned one thing about Power, they certainly do know how to flip the script in a heartbeat. We've also got Marvin, who's come to meet Gerald, who works for Voice as an editor. He's someone who he met in his anger management classes in season 2, and also the one who he helped in 303. Now if I were Marvin, I really wouldn't get too comfortable. We've seen a big shift in his character where he's become a bit more caring, rather than the angry, impulsive character who made a lot of mistakes that we saw in seasons 1 and 2. But that's where it gets slightly dangerous. Dropping your guard and giving information to Gerald that you shouldn't could end up becoming very costly. So I'm hoping that Marvin doesn't give him anything too valuable that he can use. But let's wait and see with this one. This could also be here to show how they continue to show Marvin's human side, or it could also be danger. Now, sticking with this theme of being very careful and undercover reporters, we've got Detective Howard, who also has a similar issue at the precinct. He's going to be approached by Ogden and Tanner, and maybe this is his way to get into the task force, or at least finding out which direction they're taking the investigation in. If the organized crime task force is looking into Rock, if Kanan gets on their radar, then I don't think it'll take too long for them to connect the dots to Detective Howard, and then it opens up a whole can of worms with his shooting, Detective Berg, and whatever else Howard has done. So law enforcement are going to be a big problem. Whether they get some sort of win by the end of season 3, I kind of hope they do, just so they can keep the realism with raising Kanan, which really does set it apart from Ghost and Force.
And reasonable and thoughtful. And if he is saying to sit tight while he's figuring out some things, I would suggest that you give him time to fashion a plan.
Going into episode 4, we already know that Ronnie will be meeting Snaps and Pop, and judging by how their conversation went down in this exclusive clip, it does seem like they have a bit of history. Ronnie's here because his patience is beginning to wear thin with Unique, and he's looking for some work, but Snaps will tell him to be patient and let Unique do his thing, basically have a bit more faith in his brother. The problem is, the trust isn't there because Unique is sleeping with the enemy. Whether he gets what he wants from Snaps, let's wait and see, but we also know that he will be approaching Dean.
I will run your ass into the fucking ground.
So it's not going to take long for this little meeting to go sideways, and we all know what happened to the bouncer that disrespected Ronnie in episode 2. Characters like Ronnie, they don't like being dissed or disrespected, so I think shit is about to get real between Ronnie and Dean, who Kanan described as silent but violent. But if I were to put my money on someone coming out on top in this situation, it would be Ronnie Mathis, because I don't think he's playing games. He's the kind of guy you give your Honey Nut Cheerios to and then you run a mile. So let's see what other crazy shit Ronnie has in store for us in episode 4. Now with all of that being said, let me know your thoughts and predictions down below for episode 4. I do think it's an episode where danger lurks around the corner for everyone for different reasons, especially when it comes to Ronnie and Dean. There's also the law enforcement angle, Marvin potentially being played by Gerald at Voice, and Kanan potentially being suspended from school and being back at Rocks. So drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.